I would like to have Elijah Kingston come join us. He's also a product designer from Zone Tech Park. Elijah, are you here?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Good evening, Isaac.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, so we would like to quickly have a brief intro of you and tell us how your journey has been on how you've been changing the world one pixel at a time.
All right, so my name is Elijah. I currently work as a product designer at Workforce Group, where we build recruitment and people management software for a couple of Nigerian banks, FMCG companies, oil and gas companies, and the likes. So what we essentially do at Workforce is we work with these companies to determine what their hiring needs are for specific roles, and then we help them find talent to fill those roles that they're hiring for. And then everything from the recruitment process to onboarding those employees when they get hired, and then bringing them join the team, and then doing things like appraisal, leave requests, and stuff like that. So we're building an entire suite of HR-centric solutions. So to backtrack to how I got into design and how I got into building products. So for as long as can remember, I've been like interested in computers, and then I developed a curiosity for like websites and web designs. So I discovered this site awards when I was doing my internship at PZ Cousins, and I just started to marvel at the interactions, the visual effects that I was seeing on some of the websites that were featured by awards. And that was how I decided that I wanted to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I picked up like web development and did that for a while. I joined a startup in Lagos called eLearn. So eLearn was building edtech solutions for people who were interested in learning vocational skills like baking and making clothes, making wigs and stuff like that. So we're taking all of that like vocational skills training online for people who were interested in learning those skills. So from workforce, I moved to from eLearn, I moved to work with Fishbite. Fishbite was a digital agency where I got to work on like a wide array of projects, similar to the work I did at Intelia, a software development company here in Nigeria, where I was like working on a number of client projects for the company. So I think coming from like a software development or web development background, I started to understand like that there was more to the process than just writing code, right? Things around understanding the users that you're designing for, and then combining the knowledge of what the users need are, what their pain points, interests, and context is with what the business is trying to achieve. So we hear a lot of talk about designing for users, trying to understand what user needs are. But I have come to learn that there has to be a balance between what the users want, what the users need, and what the business is trying to accomplish. So I think the role of a product designer is just essentially trying to merge those two concerns and advocate for the users on one hand, but then also keep in mind what some of the constraints of the business are, so that you are suggesting or recommending ideas that take those two factors into account. So I'm just going to share like a few tips for people who are like product generalists, product managers, product designers. I was talking to a product director at a financial technology solution in the UK. And then these were like a few takeaways from the conversation I had with him. So the first thing is that as a product person, you need to be user oriented. What that means is that you need to advocate for, you need to think about the problem of the person that you are creating for. And then you need to advocate for that person or that group of people during the process. So there's a lot of, I mean, we're all familiar with this sort of phenomenon where a product owner comes and they tell you that they have a fancy idea of how they want a particular feature to be. They tell you that, oh, they want this and they want that. And we can go on building products off of the whim of people, but I feel like we need to also think about the people that we're building for at every step of the journey. And then not just thinking about them, but trying to understand them and then using data from our interaction with these people to shape the decisions that we're making as product people. So you need to, at every point in time, be able to draw a straight line from the feature that you're trying to build and data that actually shows that this is the right direction that the product should be going in. So that's the first one. The second one is that you need to go in depth and demonstrate a deep understanding of the problem. So many times, right, you hear a brief or you see a brief and you want to jump into developing, you want to jump into like designing, sorry, as a designer. I mean, it's sort of something that we've learned over time. Once we have the first kickoff meeting, the next thing is to start sketching screens and doing wireframes and high fidelity prototypes. But I think that everybody must try to spend enough time understanding the problem that they're trying to solve. Underneath what you think might be the challenge or the pain point of the user, there's a root problem that you need to uncover through research and other methods. So spending some more time on the problem is going to help you develop a more meaningful solution, because if you don't know what the real issue is, the ideas that you generate might just address symptoms rather than the root cause of what the users are experiencing.
Awesome.
So the last thing is to be aware of constraints and be aware of stakeholders. So I've combined like those two things. So what are the constraints, right? When you're thinking of solutions as a designer, it's something I've had to teach myself over the past couple of years. I need to be aware of why this idea may not be the best idea, why this idea may not work. What are the things that need to happen for this idea to succeed? And what are the things that already exist that might prevent this idea from flying? So as a designer, you don't wait till you get to the meeting before you hear the product manager, the product owner telling you, or the developer even telling you why your idea is not feasible. You need to develop the ability to think about the constraints ahead of time so that you are prepared to address them, or maybe you can then change the direction of your ideation before time. And then the final is, again, the final one, which is also part of it, is to be aware of stakeholders. So you need to understand the people that you're working with. You need to be able to communicate in a language that they understand. This is the last example that I'm going to give before I close the curtain. So I was working on a product, and I work in a very traditional company. I hope nobody from Workforce is here. But when you talk about research and talk about following the right process for product design, there's a lot of pushback because time is like a significant constraint. So instead of going to a stakeholder to tell them that you want to do research, you can just take initiative and do like the smallest possible form of research, like surveys and interviews. And then instead of telling them and waiting for permission, use like the time that you have available to you to take the initiative and do that thing, and then present that data and just talk with the data and use that to inform your decision making, so that you are not spending more time debating about whether you should do this or do that. So on and so forth.
Thank you so very much, Emeka.
Yeah.
It's been so exciting about talking about how you carry stakeholders along in your designs and some basic some initiatives that is expected of a product designer without waiting on people. It's so very interesting. We appreciate you for joining us in this evening's event, and thank you so very much for your contribution.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Do you have any final word you want to give us, or?
Yeah. So I feel like I already sort of said it, but just to recap, you need to demonstrate an understanding of the user, be aware of the constraints, and then also think deeper to uncover the root problem, and then finally be aware of the stakeholders of what they are.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate it for coming around. Thank you so very much. So we